Hello everyone. My name is Wing Commander Sudarshan. I was in Indian Air Force for almost 24 years and I flew many different types of aeroplanes, nearly about 14 of them. And after leaving Indian Air Force, I flew for Air Deccan, Kingfisher and Indigo. Presently I'm on medical leave. I have clocked about 12,000 hours in the skies and participated in many interesting events in Indian Air Force and in civil aviation. In Indian Air Force, life is never the same. Every day it keeps changing. We keep getting involved in many interesting phases of flying and even on ground. One of the most interesting episode which I am going to tell you today is about Operation Cactus, which we conducted. It was a very short military operation of combined paratroopers, commandos, the Indian Air Force. I was also one of the participants in that operation. What happened was, I distinctly remember that day, 3rd November 1988. I was part of the Indian Peacekeeping Force for Sri Lanka and we were operating from Tamram Air Base. Tamram is near the Chennai. It used to be in the outskirts, now it is part of Chennai. So what was our routine is, every day morning we will make one shuttle to one of the bases in Sri Lanka and drop whatever is required for our military personnel, and some military personnel were deputed there and some were returning back after a certain stint in Sri Lanka, and if required we would do again one more trip in the afternoon. We were also part of the Southern Air Command, which gave support to Andaman and Nicobar. So that day I did a flight to Andaman and Nicobar, landed in Port Blair and landed in another private Indian Air Force base called Car Nicobar. And we returned to Tamram in the afternoon, and while we landed in Tamram, we saw all our aircrafts which were there are hurriedly departing somewhere, and one of the officer came and told, you quickly go to your place, collect your luggage and you are going to Agra. So it was a very hurried departure from Tamram, and while we were coming out of the officers' mess, somebody watching the TV were discussing about something has happened in Maldives. So Maldives, we heard the terminology and this country Maldives, but we never realized where is it. So in our flight from Tamram to Agra, it takes about 3 hours of flight time. We were flying Russian-made Antonov 32 aeroplane with chassis seating capacity of about 45 to 50 paratroopers or passengers, or about 5 to 5.5 tons of any military cargo that we used to regularly transport in all across the country. So while we were discussing, we found out certain things about Maldives. Where is this Maldives? You see, in Central Arabian Sea, there are a group of islands. Some group is shaped in a garland, flower garland, that was called Maladvipa. And there are many other group of islands just north to it that is called Lakshadvipa. This mention comes in Rigveda, and they are supposed to be the Suryavamshi dynasty, and they were the nature worshippers. Over a period of time, what happens, the Arab merchants who were heading to India to procure the spice items and bring in the horses from Arab countries, they used to use these islands as a transit base. So they stayed there for a week or 10 days, and slowly they started Islamizing these natives, which is now almost 100% in Maldives and 97% in Lakshadweep. Okay, that is the brief history about these group of islands. Let's come to Maldives. Maldives is a group. There are hundreds of islands. Out of that, only 200 islands are inhabited, and the main economy is based on tourism there, and the sea produce, basically fish, and some part is coconut and coconut products. Tourism is a mainstay of Maldives. European countries have taken these islands on lease. So wherever they arrive, there is a airport called Hulule, which is again built by Indians, and the moment they land, they have to take a boat and go to that particular island to which their country has leased out these islands. So similarly, the Indians also, we have also leased out certain islands there, mainly for giving support to the Maldivians, because there is absolutely no military in Maldives, and there is about 1,500 odd police personnel whom they call MDNF, Maldives Defense National Force. And India has been training these people. So traditionally we have been a very friendly and supportive country to Maldives, and that time the president was Abdul Gayoom, who was a president for almost 30 years, starting from 1978 to 2008. So this happened in 1988. He was threatened by a mercenary group of people who were hired by a rich Sri Lankan businessman called Abdullah Latifi. He hired about 80 of these Tamil Eelam group terrorists. There are many, LTT is the main terrorist group then, and there were also a fraction of other terrorist group, and they were for hire. So this Abdullah Latifi hired these 80 of them to assassinate Abdul Gayoom and take over the reins, and thereafter he will take over the reins of that country. So that was his plan. This happened on middle of night on 2nd November 1988. In fact, very next day, Abdul Gayoom was supposed to come to India on an official visit. So therefore he was busy preparing himself for the Indian visit. When he heard the gunshot in the neighborhood, then he got alarmed and went and hid himself in a place nearby, which was not actually safe house. It was quite unsafe, but luckily nobody knew. The terrorist group who were firing recklessly, they did not know where is Abdul Gayoom. So in the crossfire, many civilians got hurt and killed. So this Abdul Gayoom realized there is a coup against him. So he first rang up the authorities in Pakistan, who refused. No, we cannot interfere in your internal affairs. And further he contacted United States of America. They said we are too far and we can't do anything. And UK, United Kingdom suggested, why don't you approach India? They are already there in peacekeeping operations in Sri Lanka, so they may come to your rescue. So this message has finally reached the Indian bureaucratic circles, and by 2 o'clock the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was alerted and he was briefed about the situation in Maldives. So then there was an emergency meeting middle of night, and as a meeting progressed, they kept the Indian armed forces on high alert. Just be ready, within 3 hours we may undertake some operation. And nobody knew what is the operation, but everybody what concerned, like the aeroplanes. Those days we had long range aeroplanes called Illusion 71, IL-71, which were kept on 3 hour standby. Means the moment they get information where to go, they have to be ready. Now imagine each aircraft requires 22 tons of aviation fuel. So even for 3 aircrafts, we have to refuel something like 66 tons of fuel. You have to find at the middle of night 66 tons of fuel. But then within a few hours, they understood the gravity of the situation and got ready. And meantime, Agra is the base for paracommandos. There are paracommando training schools, and I myself served in paratrooper training school for almost 3 years, training all the paratroopers. We used to take them to about 5,000 feet, and from there they would jump with the help of parachute, and we used to do this repeatedly on a daily basis. And once in a year or so, we used to do a huge exercise for the paracommandos, in which these same IL-76 aircraft, they would drop the tanks with the help of parachute, and we would drop the paracommandos and the jeeps. And the same aircraft we used to extensively used in the northeastern part of the country. Okay, now let's come back to this operation. Fortunately, what happened, Mr. A.K. Banerjee, the High Commissioner to Maldives, was on leave in Delhi. So he also came and joined the meeting, high-level meeting that decided that yes, we will provide military assistance to Maldives and save the country and their president. So once the decision was taken, Mr. A.K. Banerjee also came to Agra, and there were 2 aircrafts which were loaded with 200 para-commandos each, fully armed, and they had to go from Agra to Maldives. But the whole exercise was done in a utmost secret, without even media getting a hint of it. So the flight plan which was filed was Agra to Thiruvananthapuram, 1 aeroplane. The second aeroplane hid behind this first aeroplane. On the radar, it looked like as if it is just 1 aeroplane, and the leader of this aeroplane was one Group Captain Beur, who happens to be a Kannadiga, and his father was a General Beur, who was the chief of Indian Army. This Beur is a small village in Bijapur district. So that is a point which we should all be proud of. So this aircraft, as they progressed towards Thiruvananthapuram, there is one liaison officer who came to the ATC of Thiruvananthapuram and briefed the secrecy of this mission and told them not to transmit anything. And this Group Captain Panikkar and Group Captain Beur, they were instructors in Iraq. They were flying instructors in Iraq, so they learned some Arabic language. So they conversed in Arabic. Go to Maldives. Maldives is safe. The runway is safe. As I told you, the runway was built by GMR of India. So we knew the details of the runway and the surroundings. But the aircraft will not get any guidance of navigation aid or the runway lights. Just imagine it was around Deepavali, that means it was a Amavas, new moon day, so that means even the help of moon is also not provided to them. So they have to land in a pitch dark runway with absolutely no clue for landing, and with 200 people on board each aircraft. So they finally diverted, and thereafter it was complete silence in the sky. Nobody conversed till they touched down in Malé safely, both the aircraft, and quickly the para-commandos spread out and secured the airport first. They ensured that there is no threat to airport. Then the boats were provided to them, and finally the team leader of para-commando, who was a Brigadier Balsara is called, and there was another Colonel Joshi. So these 2 teams surrounded the Malé. Malé is a capital city of, it's an island by itself, capital of Maldives, and it takes about 30 minutes by boat from the airport Hulule Island to go to Malé Island. So then they secured firstly all the government buildings in which Abdul Gayoom supposed to have been hiding. So then this was a bolt from the blue to this terrorist. They never expected that the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army will react so quickly and land up in hundreds, and there were only 80 people, and they started running away. And before they escaped, the Indian Navy got into action. 3 boats were diverted to Maldives, and some of them were killed and some of them were arrested and handed over to Indian paratroops, and India finally saved the Maldives from a deadly coup, and the President Abdul Gayoom was ever grateful to Indian Armed Forces for such a rescue operation, which happened so swiftly, and further he lived and ruled Maldives for next 20 years. Now what are we doing? Let's come back to our story. We left Tamram in a hurry. We landed in Agra. Agra is a very vast airbase, At any time, there are more than 40 to 50 aeroplanes parked there. That day, in the middle of night when we landed, we could not get a place to park our aeroplane. So it was flooded with all types of aeroplanes, and everybody was, getting their aeroplanes loaded with boats, with soldiers, and whatever equipment that was required. Because the intelligence that came to Indian Air Force was that there are nearly 500 terrorists. Now the preparation has to be of that scale to counter 500 terrorists. Agra that night was buzzing with all activities, and we finally got some place to stretch our legs and meet our friends to gather what is our future, where are we heading. So then we finally slept for a while, and next day morning, early morning, I got a message that we have to go to Delhi. I said, thank God, we will go to Delhi, find a bathroom, have some, at least freshen ourselves and wear some fresh clothes. So it was a big relief. So after we reached Delhi, we got a message that we have to go to Maldives, Malé, via Bangalore, and you will be carrying 40 journalists, both Indian and foreign. See, in military aeroplanes, we are used to carry soldiers, goats, sheep, jeeps, but not journalists. These journalists, they demand, if everything is all right, if they are hosted in 5-star hotel also, they crib. Oh, this is not good, chicken was not good, this all. I said, we can't even provide them water. So then the first secretary of External Affairs Ministry, one Mr. Pavan Verma, he called me. He said, don't worry, I will organize everything. And if you, this Pavan Verma is now in politics. He left foreign service. He keeps coming on TV debates, Pavan Verma. So that time he was a youngster. So he loaded the aircraft with all types of, those days water bottles were not very common. Water bottles, drinks, and sandwiches, and everything that journalists should feel comfortable with. But we only requested, can you organize some lunch for them in HAL, since we are landing in HAL airport, without letting anyone know that way, what is this aircraft doing, what are these civilians doing in HAL canteen, or what. So we contacted HAL. They agreed to provide lunch for them on board when we landed, and we, after we took off from Delhi, landed in Bangalore. And Bangalore, we were again very secretive about what is next from Bangalore. So we also, there was no flight plan, nothing. None of us had passports, visa, nothing, no currency also. So we took off from Bangalore and headed to Malé. And once we landed there, it's such a beautiful island. Yes, even the journalists requested it. Can you make a low pass over all these islands? We obliged them. We made 2-3 low passes. By then it was safe, and we enjoyed the beauty of the island. And after we landed, the same Group Captain Panikkar, who was in Trivandrum ATC, he has reached Malé. Now he has taken control of the air operations. So he said there are some casualties, civilians who got affected in the crossfire between the terrorists and the Indian forces. So please take them to hospital in Trivandrum. So then we carried them to Trivandrum, and we had to stay the night in Trivandrum, since it was not safe, or there was no accommodation back in Malé. So next day morning again we headed to Malé, and that is when we met President Gayum, and he thanked us again separately and gifted us all small things that were available in the duty-free shop. I got one, I think, clock or something, so which is still kept as a memento from the President of Maldives. So this is the story of Operation Cactus. This is the biggest favor which India did to that country, and it is not the only one. Later, there are many occasions where India open-heartedly supported them. Like In 2015, there was a water crisis in Maldives. They have only one desalination plant which supplies potable water to the entire group of islands. So that got burnt. So now again they approached India for help, and India sent something like 23 lakh bottles of drinking water within 24 hours. And further, whenever they needed support, presently there are two political factions in Maldives. One is pro-India, other one is against India, or pro-China and against China. So one is called India Out Party and other one is called India First Party. So it keeps oscillating. It is like that, this Ekta Kapoor serials, that Saas Bahu type of serials. So presently what has happened, just 2-3 months back, India Out Party came to power. So they forgot all that help that India did for decades, and they started campaign that India should get out. What was India doing in Maldives? They requested for 2 helicopters so that the casualty evacuation can be done from various islands, and they also requested for a Dornier aircraft to guard against their shores against the smuggling activity and all this some terrorist activities also have started. So you will be surprised, post tsunami India itself suffered so much damage, but we helped Maldives and provided them all the relief during tsunami. One more thing happened post tsunami. In the guise of helping Maldives, the Pakistani terrorist group entered Maldives, and they started recruiting the locals for ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It will be very shocking news if I tell you that per capita recruitment of this terrorist group to Al-Qaeda and ISIS is highest from Maldives. Because of the geographical isolation of this island, nobody understood how the terrorism also is growing in Maldives. That's a very sad part. That's why India is on a high alert. And though of course presently there is a lot of boycott Maldives cries are heard all over the world because of what some irresponsible statement the Maldivian deputy ministers have made against our Prime Minister and against Indians, against Hindus, against us. So that created such a bad blood between two countries. Naturally, when you bring fisherwomen from the fish market and make them ministers, that's what kind of statement they'll give. So that is the level of the political situation presently. As I told you, it is now India against India sentiments that are existing in the political circles. Traditionally, the elected president first comes to India on a state visit, and further he goes making foreign contacts with the foreign countries. But this man, Mohammed Muziz, I don't know, he looks like a very sad goat who lost their way. So similarly, he should have come to India, but no, he didn't do that. He went to Turkey, which is again anti-Indian government presently there, and now presently he is sitting in China begging for funds. So this is the situation now. Now India will already not at the government level, it is the Indians who are reacting. Thousands of hotel bookings are cancelled and thousands of plane tickets are cancelled, and the country which nearly 2 lakhs Indian travelers visited every year, and naturally each passenger, each traveler would spend 3 to 4 lakhs during his visit. So they just immediately lost that much money, and they will of course come on their knees, and maybe if some sense prevails, they will come and beg India's forgiveness and make amends. But of course, due to security reasons, we can't completely isolate them. We have to keep a watch. And when we do election campaign, of course there are some issues which are hyped up unnecessarily, but once you form a government, you should have some sense to balance your country so that it doesn't. They keep saying India should withdraw the military. What is a military? There are 2 helicopters, 1 aeroplane, and these are technicians. These Indian soldiers are not gone with their machine guns. So we withdraw, okay, fine, we withdraw. But we will keep a very close watch on what is happening in Maldives and reply them back in an appropriate manner. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.